When the sheriff's department rolled up to my place in full tactical gear that crisp October morning, I'll be honest, part of me just wanted to watch the chaos play out. I knew exactly who was behind all this, and I had a fresh mug of coffee in hand just to savor the spectacle. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the way Barbara Hutchinson's face went white as a ghost when she locked eyes with the guy standing next to me on my porch. See, Barbara, the president of our very own overzealous HOA, was mid-rant, waving her clipboard around and telling the deputies about dangerous squatters when her eyes landed on my friend Harold. That's when her clipboard just sort of slipped out of her hand and hit the dirt, because Harold, in his faded U.S. Marshal's hoodie, wasn't just anybody. He was Deputy Director Harold Brennan from Federal Property Oversight, and he was supposed to be on vacation. Yeah, that happened. But let me back up a sec and tell you how a peaceful life in the woods somehow turned into an HOA showdown straight out of a sitcom, except with real legal consequences. Name's Jake Morrison. After 2 decades in the Navy, all I wanted was to retire somewhere quiet, fix up my granddad's old cabin on the edge of Maple Ridge Estates, maybe film some woodworking projects for YouTube, and enjoy my morning coffee without a single soul telling me how to live. Maple Ridge looked perfect. Tree-lined, a golf course nearby, decorative lampposts, and as I soon discovered, the most power-drunk HOA board in the state. To me, the cabin was just a legacy. To Barbara Hutchinson, it was public enemy number 1. The first time we met, I was unloading 2x4s from my truck when I saw her strutting up my driveway. Heels way too high for gravel. Suit way too formal for rural life. Waving a clipboard like it was an eviction notice. She introduced herself as president of Maple Ridge Estates HOA, then told me with this smug little smile that all structures within visual range of the community required board approval. I remember laughing, thinking she was joking, but nope, she was dead serious. I tried to explain as politely as I could that my land wasn't part of the HOA. It never had been, never would be. She didn't even blink, just said, "That's what they all say," before learning how things really work around here. That was my first real taste of Maple Ridge politics. What followed was a circus. Cease and desist letters accusing me of violating noise ordinances even though my shop was a quarter mile from the nearest house. She measured the property line herself, claimed my saws, and hammers created an acoustic impact zone. She made up that term, I promise. Then came accusations that my wood stove was creating unauthorized weather patterns. No, I'm not making that up. She wrote that in an actual letter. She'd skulk around the tree line with binoculars, snapping photos and calling them community harmony assessments. One morning, I caught her actually trespassing on my land tape measure in hand, fussing over my firewood stack. She said she was conducting a fire safety evaluation for the greater good. When I asked her to leave, she promised she'd be back with proper documentation. And boy, did she mean it. The paperwork started piling up. Invoices for community impact fees I didn't owe. Reports to the power company claiming I was illegally hooked into the grid. She even called the Forestry Service saying I'd removed trees without authorization on land my family's owned since 1952. Each complaint got more desperate, but the agency still had to check them out, burning their time and mine. I mean, who has this much time on their hands? Things really went sideways when my old Navy buddies rolled into town for our annual reunion. 4 guys, 4 trucks, 4 days of grilling and telling stories around the fire. I told them about Barbara, and they laughed it off, thought I was exaggerating right up until day 1 when she stomped onto my deck noise meter in hand, scowling at our conversation. My buddy Rick whipped out his phone, downloaded a decibel app, and showed her we were quieter than a public library. She wasn't satisfied. Next thing I know, she's telling the neighbors I'm running some kind of militia training camp. She started posting warnings on the HOA Facebook page claiming dangerous individuals were gathering in the woods. She filed complaints with the county, called the ATF about weapons cases, Rick's fishing rods for the record, and tried to paint us as public enemy number 1. Here's the kicker: Barbara didn't have the slightest clue who she was messing with. Besides me, you had Harold, the Deputy Director of Federal Property Oversight, Rick, a Coast Guard cyber forensic specialist, and Dave, who literally trains rural cops on de-escalation. The dangerous individuals she was so afraid of. Just a bunch of middle-aged veterans trying to relax grill steaks and fix up an old rocking chair. Barbara, though she just couldn't leave well enough alone. On day 3, she went nuclear. She called 911 and reported a hostage situation at my address, claimed armed men were preventing her from conducting official HOA business. The sheriff's office doesn't play games with calls like that, so they sent a full tactical team. Picture the scene: cops in body armor sneaking through the woods expecting a standoff, only to find us on the porch drinking coffee and eating pie. Harold, cool as ever, showed his federal credentials and called the sheriff directly. I could hear the guy on the other end go from concerned to confused to downright irritated in under a minute. The deputies were ordered to stand down before they even got to my front steps. But nobody told Barbara she marched up behind them, hiking boots and all fake badge pinned to her lapel, demanding they remove the trespassers. We walked out, handed the officers pie, and tried not to laugh at the spectacle. That's when Barbara's face changed. First confusion, then full-on panic, because Harold introduced himself, flashed his badge, and the lead officer actually saluted him. The look he gave Barbara could have curdled milk. The sheriff himself showed up not 5 minutes later, and he was, let's say, not amused. He personally walked Barbara to her car, lecturing her about the penalties for filing a false emergency report. But it gets better. See, Rick had been quietly filming the whole thing, every fake inspection, every time Barbara trespassed or peeped through my windows. David kept detailed notes recognizing her behavior as classic harassment and stalking. And Harold, well, he took a special interest in her community authority badge, which looked suspiciously like law enforcement gear. Within a week, Barbara was served with a laundry list of charges: filing a false police report, misusing emergency services, criminal harassment, stalking, impersonating a law enforcement officer. The prosecutor was especially fired up over the hostage situation. Those resources could have been needed somewhere real. The fallout. That's where things got downright cinematic. The HOA called an emergency board meeting. Barbara thought she still had allies, but when their insurance company explained she'd put them on the hook for a potential lawsuit, even her cronies jumped ship. The vote to remove her was unanimous. But the criminal stuff, that was all hers. She was offered a plea, 2 years probation, 300 hours of community service, and $20 grand in fines just for the false police report and misuse of emergency services. Barbara, ever the proud one, showed up to court in her power suit, probably thinking it'd help her case. It didn't. When the judge read out her sentence, $20,000 probation, and a court-ordered crash course in respecting other people's property rights, she looked like she'd just swallowed a lemon. She even tried to tell the judge, "Do you know who I am in this community?" The judge didn't miss a beat. Yes. That's exactly why you're being held accountable. So now Barbara's out picking up trash on the side of the highway. No longer HOA royalty. And I get to drink my coffee on the porch in peace, watching the leaves change and listening to the kind of quiet you can only earn. Funny thing is, some neighbors have started waving again, acting like maybe it's safe to be friendly without getting an invoice in the mail. As for Barbara, well, rumor is she's planning her comeback maybe for the garden club or the school board. Some folks never learn. But let me throw this out there. Do you think Barbara deserved what she got? Or was it just small-town politics gone haywire? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who knows, maybe your HOA story is even crazier than mine. And hey, if you believe in minding your own business and respecting a neighbor's right to peace and quiet, don't forget to share this one. Community's only as good as the folks willing to stand up for it.